Anytime now, Jeff.
I already said it, man. You didn't hear me?
Nope.
All right. So this is Hindsight Sports Talk. We got Micah from the East Coast and Jeff from the left. And we are two brothers talking sports from behind the mic. So let's get it popping.
Was I supposed to play that video again?
Yeah, man.
Cut the intro. It's time for us to keep going. All right. Before we get into today's show, after that terrible introduction, hit that like button and make sure you subscribe so that you'll be notified when we go live and when videos come out. Also, we want to hear from you. So, if you're watching this live, you can drop your comments in the comment section in the chat because we do read them. And you can also email us at our email, hindsportstalk@gmail.com, which will be at the bottom of the screen if you're watching on YouTube. If you're listening on a podcast that we don't have out yet, but it's coming out very, very shortly, then you can email us at hindsightsportstalk@gmail.com.
Not sport stock.
Thank you for that clarification. Yeah. All right, Jeff, let's get into our current events. You ready for this?
Let's do this.
So first question right here, current events. Why does it seem that every Kyrie / team interactions end badly? What's your take on that one?
So you offered this up. I did think so. I think that there's a management issue. Some people have to be managed differently, depending on the kind of personality that they have. I think this is one of those scenarios where I feel like they would have benefited by doing some trust fall exercises, because I think in every scenario, I don't
going to see a marriage therapist.
Yeah, because I don't think in every scenario, I don't think Kyrie ever truly trusted management. And,
any management ever?
Ever. Ever. So
this is his third team.
So it's partly him, it's partly them. It takes two to have a bad breakup, and it's unfortunate, but he is a good player. Like, so I think it's also the expectations, right? I think the expectations in Boston were just way too high for him. The expectations in he only works in a good scenario where the expectations aren't high. And even with the Nets, the expectations were high. And not only that, I think he was
expectations exceeded his skill level.
No, the expectations exceeded his management level, his ability to manage a team. He's given way too much power, dude. His only job should be to play basketball, just like and that's that is not the role he had with the Nets. The role he had with the Nets was recruiting, was putting the team together, was managing the team as the point guard. Like that's not his thing.
So what you're really saying is that LeBron,
the skills that it takes to be a CEO is
so what
not
you're saying
what Kyrie has.
LeBron covered for a lot of Kyrie's eccentricities.
Absolutely.
Because think about it. When we heard about Kyrie's kind of nuttiness when he was on the Cavs as a rookie, when he was with LeBron. However, LeBron basically takes up all the air in the room when he walks in. So and probably initially, I bet you Kyrie, because he does seem a little, shall we say, self-indulgent at times. He comes off that way. Even if he's not, he comes off that way. So because of that, in LeBron, how much air LeBron consumes, I think that when Kyrie and he existed on the same team initially, he was fighting an uphill battle because there was no way he was on LeBron's level, even though he tried to be and he thought he was. And I think Kevin Durant was not on LeBron's level. And he couldn't even cover over. He couldn't even cover over Kyrie's eccentricities, and there was no one on the Celtics that could cover over
exactly
his eccentricities. The only one really that could deal with his eccentricities, because he was the elephant in the room, was LeBron. And I think that's why when you strip that mega star away like him, it's hard for people to take him. It's hard for him to last.
And I think that's true, but I also think that the right coach also could have done the same thing. So, in the same vein that, but I think it highlights the difference to me when you take a step back, the difference between Kobe and Kyrie, because Kobe was in a similar situation with Shaq. Shaq was clearly better than him at the beginning, and the way they were able to work together is because Kobe still had that singular focus of I want to win championships, right? I don't see that with Kyrie. I don't see a singular focus of I want to win. And sometimes managing a person like that, to get them to focus that way, is very difficult and challenging, but there are people who know how to do that. And one of the ways that I saw that is when they were on Team USA together. So when Kobe was on Team USA at the same time as Kyrie and a bunch of other players, his motivational tactic with Kyrie, I thought, was interesting and different from the way that he treated other players, which was, okay, I'm going to embarrass you until you focus. And in some instances, in some scenarios, that works. I'm not saying it works all the time, but in that scenario, I think it worked. And Kyrie needs to be in an environment where he is not. He may be trying to be the best player, but he's definitely not the best player. Again, that is true with Kevin Durant, but then you also need somebody who's going to actually make Kyrie focus, and Durant's not that kind of person. He's not a leader, and in that sense, he's not going to get other people to focus on the task that he wants them to focus on. And to me, that's the difference between him and LeBron. LeBron really showed that he was able to get 10 guys or 5 guys to focus on one particular goal. And I don't see that happening with them.
Well, I would say that Kyrie he appears to have a strong love of basketball and not a strong love of winning culture, though. Right. So like the difference is that he clearly loves the game itself. I mean, the way he plays
just by itself.
The way he plays is indicative of that he has a almost like a singular ability to feel the game, unlike a lot of people in the game. Like he really does. The way he holds the ball, the way he moves it in his hand, like he has both a it's what it seems like a mental passion for the game, but also a tactile ability that a lot of people don't have with the basketball in his hand. He has the ability to manipulate both his body and the ball in ways which is demonstrated by how he dribbles and how he can get through the most impossible defense with his dribbling, unlike most other people. He feels his way around the court, which is not the same way that other people play. And what I find is that players that have passion for the games typically feel their way around the court a lot better than those who are structurally focused on winning championships and that kind of thing. They have very different playing styles. And I wouldn't call Kyrie an aggressive player. I would call Kyrie basically like more of a ballerina type of player. Like he has this beautiful style that he plays with, which is it's almost artistic. So when you're watching him, that's where the oohs and ahs, like you're at a Cirque du Soleil show.
Yeah, he's right? An
it's
artist,
like
man.
you see someone flip around and it's like, and he loves to paint with the brush, a Kyrie, right? But LeBron, Kobe, Michael Jordan, these players are hammers. They're not artists, right? And it's their determination and their will that brought their teams to championships, in my opinion.
Well, and I think we can add Steph Curry to that list. And to me, the difference is that Kyrie is a savant. He's an artist, right? He's very good at having singular focus on himself as far as performing when he's playing basketball. And that's, to me, that is a passion for basketball. So there's no doubt that, to me, that he loves basketball, but it's the structure of a team win. That's like another level for him that he hasn't gotten to. Because the interesting thing you say about that is Steph Curry was like that early in his career. He could dribble around, and there's a famous clip of Steve Kerr just throwing his hands up because he dribbled into this impossible situation and just threw up a three. But then you could tell that the way that Steph Curry was shooting, that he meant to do it that way. Like, it wasn't
right.
He doesn't shoot threes as prayers. Like, he shoots threes because he knows he can make them. And so
they look like prayers.
They look like
at
prayers,
times.
but that they're not. Like, because he does it so often. And so in this particular play, he dribbles through like 10, not 10 people. He dribbles almost through the entire team, which is 5 people.
He dribbled through himself too.
I know. He dribbled through himself. But
he dribbled through 200 people.
Right? But again, I mean, that's the kind of play it looks like. And you play that over and over again, you're like, man, like, how the heck did he make that shot? And he ends up towards the top of the key. His back is to the basket, and all of a sudden he flips and turns around, throws it up, and it's swish. And it's like, what? And and so even the frustration on Kerr's face, and then afterwards he's like, well, it's Steph being Steph.
Yeah.
And so to me, Kyrie does that a lot. But here's the thing: you have to get the team involved in order to get a team win. If you do that for the entire 48 minutes, you're going to have disengaged players on your own team, and they're not going to pull you to the win. And we're still not at a level, and I don't know if basketball ever will be. I think it was at a point when Wilt Chamberlain was playing in his early days, where one guy can just get you the win. Like, he can score all the points, make all the plays, and be everywhere on the court. Like that, the days of that happening are long gone.
Yeah, I think so too. And the other thing too is, like, I would say watch out for Steph, because he may be the first player that is an artist and a hammer. All right, so the next question in our current events is, at what point is the problem KD instead of every team that he leaves? So this is a interesting question. And I'll take a stab at this one first. I think we may be at this point right now, because people are starting to kind of question, why is it that there always appears to be this request for a trade, regardless of if there's success or not. And KD is moving on from every team, and the basis for his request is often ambiguous. Usually when there's been issues with players and teams, the reason why they've moved on was because there's a singular issue or a spark of some sort that causes them to want to leave. But KD, and I'm not sure if he's trying to make ambiguity part of his brand. Oh, you can't figure me out, so I'm just going to request this trade and leave. He has this thing when he's not calling himself a god. He has this thing that he doesn't like for people to figure him out. And so I think that he plays a character, and I think that that's a business decision of his to do that, because regardless of whether he stays for 5 years or 2 years, he's going to make the same amount of money per year. I mean, that's already set. We already know that.
Yeah, I don't think he's making decisions based on money.
No,
alone.
But business, yes. I think he's playing a character. I think he's playing the KD character, and he has some shades at times of Russell Westbrook, in my opinion. He's a little more sensitive than other players of his caliber who are at that level, which is why he responds to folks on Twitter, why he trolls, because I think he's sensitive. But at the same time, I think he also, though, knows what he wants. And unless he gets what he wants, he's willing to just dump the rest of it. So is it a KD problem? Is it a team problem? I think that it is. I think it's KD. I think that KD is not interested in being where there's no one that he has to value the players he plays with, and once he doesn't, it's a wrap. We saw it in Golden State. We saw it in Oklahoma City. When he loses trust, and when the value prop of the players he's playing with goes down, he's out, regardless of status of the team.
So if I just stick to your question, I would say that we have reached the point. And the point is now with him requesting this trade. As far as like the psyche and like what's the reasoning behind it, and why is this happening? I think that there's multiple reasons to it, but I think one of them is that he's got an ego, and I think there's no doubt that KD has a big ego. But it is. There's a lot of hot air up there. All right, and he's in rarefied air. He's in rarefied air because he's one of the best, one of the top players in the NBA. But I think the other part of this is that the reason we're even more focused on player moves like this is because there is a sense of player empowerment, the extreme level of player empowerment that exists in the league now. Because it, to me, as far as personalities, we don't see, I think what we see from LeBron James is very measured. We don't, you know what I'm saying? Like, we don't see the character flaws, because he is very good at hiding those when he makes business decisions. And
LeBron, you say?
LeBron is. So yeah, I think that what we're seeing, though, is that everyone else, we have other players who are trying to emulate LeBron, because again, he's taking it to another level, man. I mean, the dude's a billionaire for a reason. And I think that there are other players that are trying to emulate him, and one of those players is Kevin Durant. And when you apply his personality to what LeBron is trying to do, this is the result of that. And I think it's very similar with Russell Westbrook. It's similar with other NBA stars that are in the upper echelon, who have decided, I'm going to choose how I want to do business, when I want to do business, and I am in charge of my own entity. And I don't care that I'm in association with another team. It's not about, go ahead.
No, but this kind of goes into what we're going to talk about in Out of Bounds later.
Yes.
About double standards of player movements. And I think it's a very nuanced decision. And I think it's a very, I think it's, I have strong feelings. I'm a business owner. So
this is why I want to hear your take, because you're a business owner. And, if you were, to me, there's two ways of looking at this. You've been on, I think you've been on both sides of this equation. One side of being recruited as a talent to be added to another company. And then on the other side, you're the company owner. And what would you do to get talent onto your team? And how much power are you willing to give them in order to make that happen?
Yeah. It's a, I'll address it in Out of Bounds Sports Take, so you'll have to tune in and listen for that. But I do think that there is a solution, and I don't think people listening to this who are player friendly are going to like it.
On to the next.
Yep.
So,
go ahead.
Which teams might be interested in Kyrie services? So I know,
I'm just saying. Last week, it was the Lakers, the Clippers, the Knicks, the Mavericks, the Heat, and the 76ers.
Okay, so
last week.
Is that but that's Kyrie's list, though, isn't it?
Yes, that's Kyrie's list. Yeah.
Exactly. So here's my thing. The real
But here's the thing. But here's the thing. Here's the thing. The thing is that those lists aren't based off of nothing.
Okay. So
in my opinion,
do you think the list, here's my thing. Do you think that list is a result of due diligence by an agent, or do you think it's just Kyrie sitting down saying, you know what, these are the teams I like?
So let's be very clear. These the top basketball players specifically have agents and they have PR teams.
There we go.
And those are two different. They work together, but they're two different teams. This is a PR move, not an agent move.
Absolutely.
Because
here, in my mind, there is no chance. All right, like it is not happening. At least not anytime soon. But Kyrie's not coming to the Lakers. You know what I'm saying? So like, I don't even know why. Like everyone puts the Lakers on their list of free agency destinations, and it's
because
it's only to draw competition and to drive up the price. And I'm like, guys, like stop putting, take.
Stop it. Get some help.
Exactly. Just stop it. You know what I'm saying? Stop putting the Lakers in every doggone trade scenario because you think, it's not just Lakers fans who are doing this. Like, I hate it when people put Lakers fans as the reason why, the Lakers organizational name was put into the mix. Like, that's not why it was put into the mix. It was put into the mix by the PR team because they know that's going to drive up the price and that's going to drive up the competition for that particular free agent.
This is what happens in the NFL all the time. If you want to get some money, what do you say? Who's interested in you?
I'm going to the Cowboys, who do you think? Baby. It's going to the Cowboys.
No.
Who?
You say Bill Belichick. The Patriots have interest. That's how you get more money in the NFL.
But no,
because
again,
it's not that too. Bill Belichick is the best coach in the league. If you're one of the other teams in the league, you don't want the best coach to have the best player.
That's from a reputation standpoint.
Of course, and so is Lakers because they have the reputation of overpaying people.
But that's what I'm saying. The Cowboys
has there ever been a year? Has there ever been a year where the Lakers have not been in luxury tax? Like in the NFL, the Patriots are the team that get put into press releases all the time. Like, Patriots are interested in. I can tell you right now, Patriots have been interested in OBJ when he's on the market, and Ndamukong Suh when he was on the market. All these players that were on the market, it's like, Patriots are interested in this player. Why? Because a competing team is always going to want Bill Belichick to not get another piece that can give him another championship, further distancing the Patriots from everyone else.
I agree with that, but I also think that the Cowboys are linked to a ton of trades because they have a classic history of overpaying and giving out huge contracts.
Who?
The Cowboys.
They give out terrible contracts, but I would not even put them at the top of that list. The top of the list is the Cleveland Browns. The top of the list for bad contracts in the NFL
is competitive franchise, dude. Competitive.
Yeah, but now you're qualifying it. I'm just saying.
Don't nobody care about that. Don't nobody care about the Cleveland Browns.
Teams that just like to throw away money are like the Browns.
Stop it. Get some help.
I do think that the Browns need to get some help. But here's the thing, is that Kyrie's list is now down from the 6 teams I mentioned down to 1.
Yeah, the Lakers.
And so right now they're talking about a trade for him and Russell Westbrook, which is like,
again, not going to happen.
Cleveland 2.0 right here in LA.
Yeah, but here's the thing. Why would the Nets ever accept Russell Westbrook? They won't. And so you need a third team to pick him up, and it ain't going to happen. Like there is no interest in Russell Westbrook in the league.
Are the Nets going to just end up back with KD and Kyrie at the end of the day?
No, I think KD leaves. I think KD gets traded.
Is he going to come to the Celtics for Jaylen Brown?
No.
Did Jaylen Brown and Kyrie hate each other? I think they may have bumped heads.
Yes.
When he was in the Celtics his first year.
But I think I've heard this on a number of takes, but I've heard that KD actually gets along with Jaylen Brown more than he gets along with Tatum. And as far as the fit in their games, it's a better match to have a Jaylen Brown with KD. So again, this could be getting into armchair GM, but
yeah,
I don't make that trade, man.
Here's the thing: is that so does Kevin Durant actually does he have a problem with Kyrie now? Because if he's requesting a trade from the Nets, and Kyrie, he knows that Kyrie wants to sign a trade deal, which is what's happening now, because the Nets told him to seek a sign and trade deal.
Yeah,
he knows that when he comes on the trade market, Kyrie gets put on pause because he's the better player.
Absolutely.
So, is he purposely doing this to Kyrie to show him that he's better than him and that he's more attractive to the market? Because has their relationship soured since they've been there? And did it have to do with the vaccines?
I don't think so, because they've already had reports come out that they're willing to play together, but not on the Nets. So like that report has, like, I don't think that report has zero meat to it. You can't make that report without actually having some sources. So I do think that they still get along, but I also think that Kyrie's trade demand has nothing to do with Kevin Durant. Like, you know what I'm saying? It's the value that Kevin Durant has to other teams is completely at a whole nother level than Kyrie. So, the trade, to me, it's automatic that the Nets will trade Kevin Durant way before they trade Kyrie, because if they trade Kevin Durant, they'll actually get something back.
Well, the fact that the Nets have publicly stated that their players don't have a say in the trade.
There you go.
And they're saying that about Kevin Durant. That tells me that could be a sign that the management is and Kevin Durant they're not player managers. Which is fine.
They don't see eye to eye right now.
Yeah, and so you don't have to be a player manager to be successful, because Belichick's not really a player's coach. In all respects, he is in some respects with confidentiality, but he plays the best player. Doesn't matter your contract situation or whatever, whoever's best for the team. So I think that with the Nets, if they're not players coach, I wonder if that, these NBA players like to be wall washed, man. They just do. The divas. They are divas.
Okay, you took the words right out of my mouth, because the thing that I want to say is I feel like we are in the era of the rise of the diva. The rise of the diva NBA player, because this is where we're at, man. Like, and to me, LeBron James ushered this in, and now we are here. Like, it is like, hey, the diva NBA players are in charge, and they're taking over the league by storm. And this is
what? Bro, what are you talking about, man?
Right?
The diva NBA players. And Russell Westbrook is one of them. No, it's true. Hey. LeBron. So after Kobe, LeBron brought this era in, and there has been some good that LeBron has done in the league, and like his influence on the other players. One of them has been his introduction of family life into the NBA, because it's very clear to me that it wasn't until LeBron, you wanted to put out a positive brand message about how much he cared about his children, and he gets involved in goes to their games and brings them to the court and blah, blah, blah. And now you're starting to see it more and more with NBA players. Tatum is really on the, Jason Tatum is big on this.
They're all taking cues from Kobe, man, because Kobe was doing that big time. I mean, he was bringing the kids to the press conference. He had them sit in courtside. He would, he went to them every time he got a big win or a big accomplishment. Right. Like, and the whole girl dad thing. I'm not saying it was bad. I'm just saying that was a part of his brand management to bring his family into the mix. So
and they just LeBron modify it
LeBron and Tatum and all these other players, they have jumped onto that. Steph Curry, he does that all the time. He brought the kids up to the press conference for the championship. They showed him at the game for Summer League, and he did the night thing. But he got his son to do a high five with him, on live television. Again, that all helps his brand. I'm not saying that he's doing it on purpose, but it's still part of his brand management.
So, which teams might be interested in Kyrie's services? I do think the Lakers are interested. I know that I'm not sure if you agree or disagree with that. I don't think
I agree. I agree that they're interested. It's just not going to happen.
There's a difference between being interested in it actually happening. But Jeannie Buss has indicated that she wants things to radically change because of how much money she spent. And Russell Westbrook really needs to be part of that change. He has not been good over the last couple years, maybe 2-3 years. I may have to check. I have to check Basketball Reference, but he is not the same player that he was before. So they need a guard. That's not really debatable. The question really is what guard are they going to get? Right. Is it going to be Kyrie as the guard in LA? And how does Kyrie, a ball who needs to be on ball, Anthony Davis, who needs to be on ball, and LeBron, who could play off or on ball, how does that actually work?
Who knows? But, speaking of being interested, but never going to happen, I just want to, point this out here. See? So this is what happens. You got to be ready to, the Lakers might be interested, but it ain't never going to happen. because again, they might.
So you think it's not going to happen?
Dude, the Lakers might be biting their lip, but it is not going to happen.
Now, why do you say it's not going to happen? Where's Kyrie going? By the way, where's he going? Where's he going to end up?
So here's the thing. I don't think
Miami.
I don't think he's going anywhere until next year. That's what I think.
Okay.
When he's a free agent, he's not going to get traded to anyone because the whatever the Nets can get back, they won't get back from the Lakers. And to me, that's the only viable option. And as long as the Lakers know that they can drive down the price, it's just not going to happen. And
where's KD
going?
Where's KD going? Is he going to Miami with Jimmy Buckets?
I don't see him joining the Pat Riley regime. That's the thing. So
Jimmy Buckets, man, like
I don't
KD on the Miami would be that would be tough.
Dude. The funny thing is when you say it, I could see KD going to the Celtics. I could see it.
For Jaylen Brown?
Yeah. No, for Tatum.
No, never. That would never happen.
I'm just saying it can happen, dude.
Well, Tatum outplayed Durant in almost every single one of their matchups this year. So it
doesn't matter. The question is, would the Celtics, not you, but would the Celtics make that trade?
No. Because Tatum is better at this point.
I don't know, man. That's a tough one.
Now, his absolute terrible performance in I'm just saying finals games aside.
Yeah.
Like in their head-to-head matchups. In their head-to-head matchups, Tatum has been better.
Sure.
So the question is, if you get Durant in a trade for, like, let's say Jaylen Brown, you have two Tatums on you have two Durants. Same thing. You have two Durants. You have two Tatums on your team.
Right.
Does that win a championship? Because they're the same player, basically.
I again, if I'm the Celtics, I would make that trade. I would make the trade for KD for Tatum.
Yeah, Tatum's just too young. He's 24.
I got you.
You can't do that, man.
Either you want the banner now, or you don't care about not getting the banner for another 10 years.
Yeah, I think they're convinced that Tatum is Durant and that they have many options to win championships in the future, and they're not willing to sacrifice it like that. I think they'll be more willing to get rid of Jaylen Brown clearly than Tatum. Jaylen Brown is on the block.
You're correct, but the Nets won't make that trade. That's what I'm saying. The Nets
they should though, because Jaylen Brown is a Nets kind of player.
Nah, Nah. Again, like they need a like if you don't want to trade Kevin Durant unless you're getting a franchise player, I don't think Jaylen Brown's a franchise player.
No, but my point is that the Nets would do it because they're literally going to have no choice. I think that it's better to move on a year earlier than a year later. And if the Nets are as smart as at basketball management as they think, which is one of the reasons why KD is being shown the door right now, then they would make that trade now.
KD is the one requesting the trade, and you asked me where does KD want to go. So that's it's to me it's totally different as far as what the Nets can do.
Because, no, I asked you where you think that. I asked you where you think KD would end up. I didn't ask you where you think he wants to go.
Oh, I think he ends up at Phoenix. I think he ends up at Phoenix.
Ooh, Phoenix. Yeah, that's interesting.
I think he ends up at Phoenix. Will they be because I would totally trade KD for what's his name?
Devin Booker?
No. The center. What's his name? DeAndre Ayton.
Ayton.
Yeah. So DeAndre Ayton plus somebody
you have
else.
To get another player. Yeah.
Sure. But I mean, it's DeAndre Ayton plus somebody else.
Jake Crowder.
Absolutely. No. What's his name? Cam. I forgot his name. The dude. You know what I'm talking about.
Nope. We're going to sit here and watch you fiddle with your thing. All right, we have one more question while you're looking that up.
Let's get rid of those words.
Yeah. So when you have it, let us know.
No, Cameron Payne.
Okay. All right. What should the NFL and the Browns do with the Deshaun Watson issue? So this is an issue right here.
Man, I wouldn't touch that with a 10-foot pole.
Deshaun Watson, just so y'all know, you probably already know if you're watching this, is that he was dealing with 24 civil lawsuits that were accusing him of a pattern of lewd behavior.
Civil.
He has settled 20 of the 24 lawsuits. No surprises there. That they skipped right to the civil instead of the criminal. Mm-hmm. But so here we have some information. We're just going to go in a little bit of a different order here. We're going to just give a highlight
because I haven't kept up with this. So what's happening with the other four?
We're going to get to that. All right. So let's start off with the what. Okay. I mean the who. So Deshaun Watson, he's 26 years old. He's a quarterback in the NFL. He signed a 4-year contract extension a couple years ago in Houston, Texas, worth $100 million guaranteed. Remember, so before we start, the question is, what should the NFL and the Browns do with the Deshaun Watson issue? So that's the question.
All right. NFL and Browns.
So let's talk about the issue first, and then we'll talk about what they should do. So the issue, he signed a 4-year deal, Houston Texans, 2020, $111 million guaranteed, tying him to the Houston Texans through 2025. But he was disenchanted by basically their management and their personnel moves, asked for a trade, got the trade to Cleveland after not playing last year. The Cleveland Browns subsequently traded 3 first-round picks and 2 additional picks and gave him $230 million over 5 years and the most guaranteed money in league history to him. Now, his acquisition divided Browns fans, some of whom welcomed the arrival of the star player, while others expressed concern about the allegations against him.
All right, go
so let's talk about what he's being accused of. So 24 women accused Watson of assault in civil lawsuits that were filed in Texas. The lawyer representing them, Busby, said that the women had largely echoed one another's claims of sexual misconduct and coercive behavior against Watson. Now, before we move on, we are talking about sports, the NFL, and the Browns. We are not talking about whether or not we believe these allegations actually happened or not, whether we think they're true or not. That is not what this show is about. We are not lawyers, and we are not here to represent one of those specific issues. We're talking sports.
Only sports.
Right. So whether these are true or not is not up to us. So 2 of the cases included claims of sexual assault, where the vast majority of them were basically of sexual misconduct, which are 2 completely different classes of charge.
Yes.
I think it's important to understand That the civil lawsuit alleged that Watson engaged in a pattern of lewd behavior with women hired to provide personal services. In these cases, massage services. They claimed that he coerced them to touch him in a sexual manner, exposed himself to them when he had hired them for massages, moving his body in ways that forced them to touch his private. So, in the incidents that were cited, they were said to have occurred between March 2020 and March 2021. So, within a year of each other. Okay. So, what's the status of the lawsuits? So, last week, Watson reached settlements with 20 of the 24 women who filed sexual misconduct lawsuits against him. The plaintiff's lawyer, Tony Busby, said. He said that the settlements were confidential and that those cases would be dismissed once finalized. So the cases will be dismissed, meaning that there will be no charges against him after they're dismissed, right? That's what dismissed
just for
means.
The 20.
For the 20 that were settled. So on Monday, one of the 4 women who has not settled with Watson filed a lawsuit against the Texans as well, alleging that the team turned a blind eye to Watson's behavior toward female massage therapists. The woman said the team enabled Watson by providing him a non-disclosure agreement to give to therapists and by supplying the venue he used for some of his appointments, as the Times reported earlier this month. So let's talk about the criminal charges. The Houston Police Department, now this is where it gets interesting, began an investigation after a complainant filed a report against Watson. In March, a grand jury in Harris County declined to bring charges against him on any of the 9 criminal complaints. We respect the grand jury's decision, said Jonna Stallings, Division Chief of the Adult Sex Crimes and Human Trafficking Unit at Harris County District Attorney's Office. We will conclude the criminal proceedings in Harris County. 2 weeks later, another grand jury, this time in Brazoria County, Texas, declined to indict Watson on any charges of sexual misconduct during a massage therapy session. It was the last known criminal case against him. So, here we are. So let's talk about this first, right?
All right.
There was an investigation after one complaint to the. Okay. So, well, it looks like there were two complaints that made it to the police, and they both were completely dismissed by a grand jury.
Okay.
There were 24 lawsuits, 20 of which that were settled, 4 of which continue on. And my gut is that the reason why those are continue on is because they're trying to dig into a little further, deeper into the NFL pockets, like going after the teams, which was already kind of indicated with filing a lawsuit with the Houston Texans.
They said they was going to do that.
However, Deshaun Watson from the very beginning until now has completely been, there are no charges pending.
Okay. Yep.
The charges that were pending were dismissed. Mm-hmm. And so here we are. So all we have is allegations and civil lawsuits, but no criminal charges.
Okay.
No convictions.
Yes.
Deshaun Watson says on Twitter that he never treated any woman with anything other than the utmost respect, that he rejected a baseless 6-figure settlement demand made by Busby before the first suit was filed. So that's his side of the story, was that they tried to basically get money from him before they even filed the first lawsuit, and he rejected that.
Okay.
So the lawyer that represents Watson said that the allegations against his client were meritless and disputed the veracity of all the claims, describing one of the allegations of sexual assault as a blackmail attempt. Mm-hmm. In another statement issued March of last year, Harlan highlighted firsthand testimonies of more than a dozen massage therapists who said they had worked with Watson over the past 5 years without experiencing any behavior described by the plaintiffs in the lawsuits. So there was also more than a dozen that worked with him in the same time period that didn't have any of that stuff go on that they talked about.
Okay.
Now, again, we are not here to assess whether sexual
misconduct. We're spending a long time on this, man.
we gotta be very clear.
All right.
We're not here to assess who is telling the truth in this and who is not. We're not taking sides on this. Our question is, with this information, what should the NFL do? What should the Browns do? What do you think?
So I'd rather get your take on this first.
Okay.
Especially
so in my opinion, what's happening is that the what people are asking for is for the NFL to suspend Deshaun Watson indefinitely until there's resolution of the case, or to just give him a 12-month suspension for violating the player conduct policies in the league. But the problem is, there's only 4 remaining cases that have not been resolved. Right? Let me correct that. There are only 4 pending civil lawsuits that have not been resolved, and every criminal case has been dismissed against him. So, is there evidence that the NFL has that clearly shows that he engaged in conduct detrimental to the team or to himself, regardless of the accusations that are out there, since none of them have either been proven, are public, or haven't been settled? So, has there theoretically been something that's happened that that they can even suspend him for right now? The question is the allegation enough to suspend him, or do they need corroborative evidence like a charge with a lost lawsuit, or a conviction in a criminal court, or a trial like if he was being tried for murder, say, right, and that trial is actually happening right now, would you want to see him play? Or if he was, for instance, accused of committing murder and the grand jury had dropped those charges, so therefore it's not playing out in the trial, and we say that, the grand jury decided not to move those charges forward, so therefore he's not being charged with those things, and the case has been dropped.
Well, you still question.
In my opinion, based off of that evidence, I don't think that the NFL and the Browns can do anything but deal with the PR issues surrounding this. We don't condone domestic violence. We don't condone sexual misconduct of any kind. We've donated $100,000 to the fund for victims of sexual violence and blah blah blah. Oh, I forgot. We have to use initials on YouTube. We're going to donate $100,000 to victims of SV, right? To make sure that to show you that we stand behind them. But given that there has been no formal charges here, our position is that we collected, and you can blame it on the union too. We have collectively bargained to not take action unless there have been issues that our players have been convicted or something like that, right? Like, we stand on the firm grounds of U.S. law, which is until proven guilty in a court of law, if there's charges there, then this is where we stand. But we do not endorse SV or DV or anything like that. So that's what I think they might do. I mean, it's placating, of course. People know that the NFL placates. They've done it before.
You're using the word should. So what should they do?
That's what they should do.
Okay. So
I don't see what other choice they have, because they risk a lawsuit from Deshaun Watson.
Absolutely.
About SV allegations that have not happened. I mean, excuse me. Mm-hmm. Yeah, SV allegations that have not been provable in any court of law, and the ones that were brought to the police were dismissed. So it's like, what grounds do they even have to suspend?
Here's the thing: is the way they have written. I feel like they've written their policies in a way where they don't have to disclose. So they don't have to disclose how the process happens as far as how they come to a decision and what reasons they came to that decision for. And so that gives the NFL and the Browns a wall to hide behind as far as what information they have that they can base their decision on, and whether they choose to exercise it or not. And so, I can't. My answer to the question is I don't know, because they have specifically written it so that we don't know what's actually going on. Whatever information the Browns have access to, the NFL has access to, we're never going to know the full details.
Oh, come on.
Dude, we're just
they have access to everything.
Hey, I think I really think that we're not going to know. I think that it may come out after the fact, or like way down the line. But as far as like immediate access, we're not going to get it. And so the justification for why they choose to do whatever they choose to do, we're not going to be able to see it. We're just going to know that that's the decision they've made. So, to me, as far as what they should do, that really comes down to, what do you think the NFL and the Browns are motivated by? Are they motivated by the PR battle, or are they more motivated by the franchise and the ability to win? That's to me, that's what it comes down to.
Well, the PR battle, as we know, they're very concerned about, obviously, because when the social justice stuff happened in 2020, I mean, spray painting fields and like all this stuff and all these donations and stuff.
I think
like
it's
that.
a different. If it's a different,
this is a different issue.
It's a different issue, but it's a different scenario when the season starts. You know what I'm saying? It to me is totally different when the games are getting played.
It is, and so right now there's a bigger spotlight on it because training camp hasn't started and
ain't nothing happening.
All the other stuff. Yeah. So, what should they do? The answer is probably stay silent, like they've been saying. And then, well, here's the thing: if they don't do anything, they keep the pressure on Deshaun Watson to handle these issues, and to settle them. Because once he settles 24 of 24 issues, then there's nothing else to talk about. Probably, in their opinion, they can move on. I think that they're just buying time to not say anything, which is why they haven't said anything. Time is on their side. Time is on their side. Time is on the NFL side. It's not on the Browns side, because the Browns start training camp this month. They start training camp this month. So
to me, the pressure is on the Browns right now. It's not on Deshaun Watson, and it's not on the NFL.
Right. So the Browns have to, and they have a fan base that they're going to have to deal with. Fortunately, locally, and they'll have to deal with that. So who knows?
But I can tell you exactly what Deshaun Watson is thinking.
Hell, it's a family model. Are you ready, Jerry?
I'm ready.
Want to make sure you're ready, brother.
All right, this is a
show me the money. Show me the money.
Look, Deshaun Watson is just like,
oh my God.
All I want is to be able to pay these claims. Give me the money so I can pay these claims, so then I can play again. And then maybe I'll end up with that. Okay, are you ready, people? Are you ready?
No.
All right.
I don't even know what you're going to next, man.
It's time for Armchair GM.
Hell, it's a family model. Are you ready, Jerry?
I'm ready.
Want to make sure you're ready, brother. Here it is. Show me the money.
Nice.
All right. Okay. So
let's get to it.
GM. Here we go. So basically what we're going to do today for our Armchair GM rapid fire section is we're going to go through some transactions in the NBA that happened, and we're going to just give them a letter grade. I'm going to read the transaction, and I think Jeff has a few transactions, and whoever reads it, I'm going to ask the Opposite person, they're letter grade, and we're going to go from there. So let's start with Bradley Beal. The Wizards agreed to a 5-year, $251 million extension. Jeff, your grade for that?
I give it a B.
Okay. Why a B?
I think it was an all right. It was a good decision on Bradley Beal's part. I think that if the team wants to improve, they need to bring players to DC.
Yep. So my grade for this is also a B, and the reason why is because for a lot of the same reasons. The question, remember, is always who's better than the player that you're bringing in. So I think a lot of people look at the max money for a specific year, and they think in their heads like, oh, yeah, but is that player really worth it? The answer is if that player is at the top of the free agent market, then they are the market. So whatever they get paid is what they're worth. Essentially, it's just like regular commerce.
Yeah.
Timing is everything.
That. All right.
Okay. Nikola Jokic, 5-year, $264 million supermax deal. And I'm going to go first with this one. That is probably not even enough money. He probably deserves $400 million. Wow, that dude is good, man. He is good.
Okay.
Jeff?
Well, my grade is I disagree. I think it was a B, and only because he cashed in. But again, if you have 2 MVPs, but you can't make it to the conference finals, that's a problem.
True. That's true. And yeah, we'll see. Well, they also didn't have, but remember they didn't have Jamal Murray.
Jamal Murray, I know.
Last year. So it'd be interesting to see.
I'm sorry, man. Hey, if you're the MVP, you need to at least get to the conference finals. I'm sorry.
Okay, but Jamal Murray is a big piece. That's tantamount to Jaylen Brown being missing from the Celtics. So that's a big piece missing.
No, because Jaylen Brown hasn't been an MVP. But
Jamal Murray hasn't either. I'm talking about a big piece on the team, though. So like my point
Tatum was never an MVP either. I'm talking about, to me, a direct correlation.
I'm going best player on the team.
Direct correlation.
Best player on the team
is Antetokounmpo. All right, he was missing Middleton, and they still went far. Now he did not get the MVP.
Did he make it to the Eastern Conference Finals?
Yes. What the year before?
No, this year, brother.
This year he wasn't the MVP.
Okay, but he's still an MVP.
No. The year that you win the MVP, you need to get to the conference finals. That's what I'm saying. I'm not talking about have you ever been an MVP?
I think we're talking about two different things. Jamal Murray is a huge piece of that team. You take out a huge piece of the team, that's the problem. These players cannot win
excuses
by themselves.
No excuses.
Oladipo returned to the Heat on a 1-year, $11 million deal.
Okay, moving on.
What you think?
I don't really care for Oladipo, so I'm giving that a C.
Yeah, I'm going to stick with the C too. I think that Oladipo, he had so much potential before he got injured, and now
he's a different player.
He's a different player.
All right. Next.
76ers finalizing a 3-year deal for $33.2 million with veteran forward PJ Tucker. What do you think?
Also a C. It's not good, but it's not bad
either. He's a little too fat for me.
That's what I'm saying. He's on the way out, bro.
Yeah. Yep. My grade is a D. I wouldn't have done it. 33 3 years.
That's what I'm just saying. I would have done a 1-year deal, not 3.
I would have done a 1-year too. Philadelphia also agreed to a 2-year, $8.5 million deal with Utah forward Daniel House. What do you think about that?
I don't know who that is, so C.
Yeah, so we give you a who cares.
I have no clue who that is.
We give you a who cares on that one. Milwaukee's bringing back guards Wesley Matthews and Javon Carter. I don't know who Javon Carter is, but I do know who Wesley Matthews is. I think he's a good bench player. I'm gonna give him a C. How about this? Bobby Portis returning to the Milwaukee Bucks 4 years, $49 million. What you got?
I'll give Bobby Portis a B. But I think that was a bad decision on the franchise's part. So
50 mil?
Yeah. So when we're giving these grades, I want to be clear who I'm giving the grade to. In this case,
grade is
I'm giving the B to Bobby Portis.
Grade.
Yeah. But I think that's more because of Bobby Portis instead of the other way around.
Okay. I'm giving this grade this deal a C. It's too many years for Bobby Portis.
Okay.
I wouldn't have gone more than 2. So the next significant transaction is Simons. Portland Trail Blazers agreed to a 4-year, $100 million contract extension with Simons. He averaged 17.3 points last season, shot 45% from the field, 41.5% on 3-pointers. What say you?
That's a D for me. Way too much money.
Pay for performance, 17. He needs to get his rebounds up, I think.
Yeah. I think he's hit his peak.
In my opinion, if he can do it Al Horford and do a 17 points and stay around like 10 rebounds or so, that's a solid baby fundamental contract. I mean, and 4-year, $100 million now is not the same as it used to be. I don't think.
I guess so. Yeah. But to me, this is the true definition of buy low, sell high. I think they're doing the opposite.
Yeah. Right. That's bad though.
Exactly. That's why I gave it a D.
OKC agreed to a 5-year, $87.5 million deal with Lou Dort. 17.2 points, 4.2 rebounds, 1.7 assists over 51 games with OKC last season. Would you have done that deal? 5 years.
Nah. Again, dude, you keep mentioning we need to get back to the higher contracts. Like, significant means more than $100 million.
Lou Dort, man, I had him on my fantasy team, and that dude killed me. So that he gets a D.
Okay. All right. So let's raise the level.
By the way, I will say that I beat Geoff's butt in fantasy basketball this year. I won the championship.
I barely played, so that's not even worth it. Like I wasn't able to stick with it. I have an 18-month-old. I ain't got time for fantasy football, fantasy basketball.
I'm a champion, regardless of what Geoff says. It doesn't really matter. Yeah. New York Knicks have landed one of the
tail off of you and playing real basketball, so it's all good.
No, he didn't. Geoff can't even walk down the stairs without blowing.
That happened.
Never. Don't believe your hype. If you've ever seen Geoff move, you would not believe it.
Again.
The New York Knicks.
We know that it happened.
If you think that Geoff beat the brakes off of someone, anyone in basketball,
because I had the hops.
Stop it. Get some help.
I have it now.
It never happened.
Now.
Listen, I drove on Geoff. His response was,
"What's wrong with you, bro? What the heck? You tripping, bro? You tripping?"
See, I crossed him up, and this is what happened.
But after I won,
and now we've jumped into crazy, and that's why you got
what? Bro, what are you talking about, man?
First of all, Geoff can't even dribble the ball, so we won't even go there. The New York Knicks have landed one of the top free agent targets of the summer.
That's how you know what happened.
Dallas Mavericks guard Jalen Brunson agreed to a 4-year, $104 million deal with the Knicks. What do you think about Jalen Brunson?
Okay, I think that is a absolute great deal.
I give it a B.
Okay.
Yep.
I think they got Brunson on the cheap, man.
Solid deal. In a good year where when people are overlooking guards right now, which still begs the question of why the heck haven't the Celtics brought in a quality guard? Although the Celtics have traded for Malcolm Brogdon from Indiana. Geoff,
he's good.
Geoff, your grade on Brogdon?
That's a B for me.
On this team, I give it a B. Brogdon is good. He can score, which is really important because we need a scoring guard when it actually matters.
All right.
And yeah. So what I want you to know is that the Jazz, this is not a major deal, but the Jazz waived Hernan Gomez, who was the subject of Hustle movie on Netflix with Adam Sandler.
Wow.
He got waived. He also got waived by the Celtics, though. So there's that. And any completed Durant trade that happens until we broadcast again, what will you give that grade? Any completed KD trade?
Oh, that to me, that is an automatic D. There's no way they're going to get the D for Durant because there's no way they're going to get the value back.
Which team? The receiving or the trading of the Nets?
Whatever the Nets are getting.
And what about any completed Kyrie trade?
Any completed Kyrie trade, I automatically give the Nets a B for getting automatic.
That's hilarious.
Yeah.
Any free agents that I haven't really? Oh, there is one. There is one that I really, really wanted to happen.
Okay.
DeJounte Murray. I really wanted him.
Really?
I did. He's good. He's really good, and he can score, and he can distribute.
So here, I just as a Lakers
big fan here.
Okay, so as a Lakers fan, I wanted Zach LaVine to opt out. I thought he would have been a great addition on the Lakers.
So there's talk that the Spurs are going to buy out Danilo
Gallinari. Yep.
And the Celtics will pick him up.
Mm-hmm.
If the Celtics pick him up, if they complete that, this is like, I wouldn't call this a red hot, but this is a simmering thing that might happen.
That's also a B for me.
Yeah. I agree with the B. Gallinari can score and shoot. It is clear to me that Brad Stevens is targeting scoring guard. He wants scoring guards because he has his bigs. I think he's set with that for the most part. But
I still think they need I still think they need a real point guard, but we'll get to that later.
Yeah, we'll get to that later. Any trades that you wanted to bring up that I haven't?
Just the Zach LaVine. I mean, again, I don't know if they're trade related, but they're more so free agent decisions. And as far as decisions to re-up, I thought I wanted to mention the Zion Williamson deal only just so that I could give.
He got the rookie max.
Yeah, again, just so I could give the Pelicans an F because I mean, this dude, like, I'm sorry, like, I don't care how in shape he is right now. His commitment to basketball does not warrant that kind of contract.
I give the Pelicans a D. You got to let him come back on his final year and play it out.
Yeah,
and see what he actually is. Because my gut feeling, if I was a Pelicans fan, is that the Pelicans are going the way of Greg Oden.
Yeah,
with him.
And dude, like, you don't hand out a max contract unless you have proof, just like the movie from Jerry Maguire. The dude's got to be willing to catch passes over the middle. If you ain't willing to do that, then stop asking for the contract.
The Mavericks getting Christian Wood is an interesting trade, in my opinion.
Okay.
I think Christian Wood is a solid player. Mm-hmm. I'm not calling him an all-star. I'm not saying he's an MVP, but I do think that Christian Wood is legit, and it will be interesting to see how much better Christian Wood actually makes the Dallas Mavericks in the middle. So we'll see about that. All right. So we're gonna move on now to Out of Bounds Sports Takes.
Because when we're talking out of bounds, sometimes people just say stuff that's just so ridiculous that you got to say, what the heck were they thinking? And so we'd like to welcome you to Out of Bounds Sports Takes. So even putting up the banner was out of bounds.
So in the background, producing this show, me and Geoff are both fighting to put up that video of the Out of Bounds Sports Stakes, and it culminated into the most ridiculous battle to put it up. Anyways, we got it up. So, Geoff, you have to step away for a minute.
Yeah.
And I am going to talk a little bit about the first Out of Bounds Sports Stake that Geoff has up there. But before you go and we talk about the other three when you come back,
all right.
Here's the first one. So Geoff says it's impossible for the MJ GOAT debate to change. This is the Out of Bounds Sports Stake. He heard this the other day, and what he was basically saying there was that right now, people have said that there is nothing that can change or shake Michael Jordan from the mountaintop as the GOAT. In my opinion, I think that is just a matter of time. I think that is a matter of, honestly, what it's just a matter of finding a player who can do the things that Michael Jordan was. Whenever you get someone who can win the scoring title, Defensive Player of the Year, and the MVP in the same year, like Michael Jordan did, that is a special player. And I'm not even sure that there would have to be a very special player to do that. And the special players that have come through the NBA in the interim since Michael Jordan, we're talking about, think about the greatest players of the era: Shaq, Kobe, LeBron, and other players now that are entering into that. Maybe Tatum, Jason Tatum, if he gets his act together. These players, I mean, even Kobe, who some people will consider the closest post-Michael Jordan player to play the NBA, did not do what Michael Jordan did. Came close in a lot of respects, but still wasn't that kind of player that Michael Jordan was. And I think that has an issue. That's an issue with for this debate. I think it's not a matter of if it will happen and someone will displace them. I think it's a matter of when it actually happens and when a player actually has the ability to come and displace them from that. And so is it out of bounds to say that a person can't actually is it out of bounds to say that a person can't come and take away the GOAT throne from Michael Jordan? I think that is a little presumptuous to say that. But I do think that it's something that they may have to that we'll have to watch and see. I just don't think that there's been a player that has come close. There hasn't been a player that could overcome what Michael Jordan has done. I think that Michael Jordan is the best player because he's done things that people have never seen. I think that Kobe was the closest, and even Kobe couldn't do it. And when will we get another Kobe? Those are generational players. It's kind of hard to tell. Although we do have a comment here, Geoff. You're muted though, so you may have to unmute yourself.
Okay, I see it.
So, in the World Cup qualifiers, the United States international team barely defeated the Peru team 80-75. What would have happened if it had played against one of the European teams, even in the B level?
They would have been destroyed. I mean,
Oh, okay. So they're talking about the basketball. This must be. Is this a basketball question? It must be.
I hope so, because I mean
that score 80-75.
I was thinking it was football.
Yeah, but
like soccer.
It has to be a.
You think it's basketball?
Well, the score itself is indicative of basketball, right? 80-75.
Yeah.
So maybe he's. I think he's talking about the gold medal games, perhaps.
Yeah, but what was the roster for that team, though? I mean, I highly doubt it's the roster that it's going to be in the
I've never seen a football game like soccer game. Someone score 80-75. So this is obviously a basketball question. I think the answer to the question is, in my opinion, the answer to the question is if the United States team can be beat by a group of professional players, just like any other just like any other professional sports team. I don't think they're immune. And in fact, if you remember the 1992 Dream Team, that team, even with Michael Jordan, got beat one game. And remember, they had to get Magic Johnson and Larry Bird, and they riled everyone up, and then they ended up coming back and not losing another game. But I think they got beat for one of those games, if my memory serves correctly. I don't think
so.
Did they win?
No.
Or maybe it was a practice.
Right to me.
Maybe it was a practice I'm thinking about. But you have to look that up. You can fact check me on that one. But the European teams are okay. You know what? I'm going to answer this with the video.
They said that. So again, it's not proven. They're saying Grant Hill said that his college squad team defeated the Dream Team by 20 points when they were playing a practice game, but that Coach Daly removed the score from the scoreboard before the media entered. So nobody actually figured out what the score was.
Okay. Well,
it was reported that the score was 62-54 by the college guys that beat them. But again, like I said, I highly, highly doubt that was the actual squad.
Got it. Right. So. I got you. So here's an interview that Luka Doncic did, explaining the difference between playing in the Euro League that you're referencing to playing in the NBA. This is something that kind of just came out on the podcast for a JJ Redick's podcast, and I'm going to share this right now.
Did you feel like your instinct, like because your just basketball instinct has been that way since you started playing, or did you have like a period when you were younger where you felt like mentally like a switch flipped and you kind of figured it out?
No, I wouldn't say like switch. I would say like just like I said, through the years, when I was in Madrid, I was always playing with the older guys, so I could learn a lot from them. Then with 16, I started to practice with the first team. You just watch and then try to do it on the court and just learn from that.
What made you, at 13 years old, travel, sign with Real Madrid, travel and move to a different country, 1,000 miles away from where you grew up?
We use kilometers in Europe. No, I can. It was tough, very tough decision, man. I had to leave all my family, all my friends, the school I was there.
All right.
So he's giving a little background here about
this
that.
This is taking too long, man.
Let me get to the.
Can you do the math real quick? Do you know how many?
You see,
let's say like first 3-4 months, it was really tough. I didn't know nobody. Actually, I almost didn't speak English either. Like, really tough, In 3 months, I was like just
the NBA to.
Okay, let's go. Here's a full question.
Just stay there.
Can you sort of compare the NBA to maybe not just the ACB, but the EuroLeague in general? And the EuroLeague is probably the second best league in the world.
Yeah.
ACB, in terms of a national league, is probably the second best. So just kind of compare the two, the NBA between Europe.
Well, I would say European basketball is more team basketball, more tactics basketball. But it's, it's very different because the court is smaller, the fouls are different, the rules are different, so everything's different, and you have less time. But just playing in the NBA, you have guys, they're almost impossible to guard. And that's why NBA is way more tougher to play. I only say scoring is easier in NBA just because of the amount of the different rules, the less space, the time. So that's why I said it. So
that's what he had to say about that. I think that it's an interesting conversation to have. And I think when that viewer commented about our discussion about NBA players and in the Euro League, I think the reality is that the NBA has better players. I don't think anyone denies that. And as Luka in his own words said, there are big stark differences between playing in the two leagues, but I think the result at the end of the day is the better players are going to win.
Typically. And the talent is still. I think the talent is still in the NBA, but they call it the World Championship for a reason, because it's literally open to the world. Like they are pulling guys not just from Europe, they're from from Africa, from China, from South America. Like it's literally from everywhere that these guys are getting pulled into the NBA now. It is, to me, it is a talent league, right? Whereas and so I do agree with him on his point that it is more team based in the European League, but I think there's less talent there. So
So to answer your original question, individual who chatted, sorry you didn't have a name with your chat. I think the reality is that
we couldn't read it. So.
Any team can beat any team, including the team, the U.S. national team. I think at the end of the day, typically the talent of the NBA is we're going to see it kind of weighed heavier to the U.S. national team. However, in recent years, I've noticed that a lot more NBA players are playing for their national teams than ever before. So there's a little bit more of dispersed talent there. So continuing on with the Out of Bounds Sports Takes, Geoff, did you want to comment on this piece right here real quick before we move on?
So, I mean, again, I think that if you're going to look to the past, of course, the MJ GOAT debate is settled. He is the greatest of all time. But I'm talking about looking to the future. And so when it says, when someone says that it's impossible for the debate to change, then they're really ignoring the fact that competition, can and will get better over time, and that there is the possibility of a generational player coming along. Now, the likelihood is low, but that doesn't mean it's not going to happen. And, the conversation that I was actually viewing from the First Things First show, where they were talking about, what if Steph Curry wins, 5 rings or 6 rings or 7 rings? At what point would you move him ahead of other people because he's made these accomplishments? And my point is, there's always going to be somebody who can outdo the accomplishments that have already been made. When Michael Jordan came along, nobody thought that anyone was going to overtake Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Magic Johnson, Larry Bird, and yet he did. So I'm not saying that there's a big gap. I think there is a big gap between MJ and a lot of players today. But I think that gap can be closed. And the idea, we should not rule it out, that if somebody comes along and says, and they win 10 championships straight, and they're the best player on the team, they could be the greatest of all time. It can happen.
Yeah. When you were gone, I said that Michael Jordan won Defensive Player of the Year, scoring title, and MVP in the same season. Very few players have done that. And had the additional successes that Michael Jordan has had. And it will be, again, the closest person to be able to do that probably could have been LeBron, and he still didn't even get all 3 awards in any year in his career. And it's very unlikely that he'll do it moving forward, given his age and how much time he has left in the league. But, we'll see. Next Out of Bounds Sports Take. Tom Brady is only the GOAT because of rings. I have strong feelings about this. And I think that it has been well established by now.
This is clearly out of bounds.
Yeah, this is clearly out of bounds. I mean, Tom Brady has basically virtually broken every NFL record across the board. Passing touchdowns, passing yards, playoff passing touchdowns, playoff passing yards, championship rings. He doesn't have the most MVPs. Understood. But he has 3, which is plenty, and he has the most Super Bowl MVPs of anyone ever that's played. He's played the longest. What else? Well, I'm not even sure if there's a record left that he hasn't broken yet, and he's going into his 21st or 22nd season next year. So, good luck.
All I'm saying is rings is not the end all be all.
Yeah.
Moving on.
unlike Michael Jordan, there may not be anyone ever that breaks his level of success in their career. I mean, Michael Jordan's accomplishments will be broken before Tom Brady's, I believe. Do you agree or disagree?
I think we're looking outside the sport. So I like to contain, as far as I'm concerned, I like to contain GOAT conversations to that particular sport. So
yeah, I don't. I break the rules. So I think that, in my opinion,
disagree on that, but that's fine.
I think it's highly unlikely that the best in basketball, the best in football, even the best quarterback that plays football, will break Tom Brady's record versus the best player in basketball. I think the best in each respective sport, if it would happen, it would happen in basketball before it would happen in football, because there's too much stuff that has to happen in football. Like, there's about triple the amount of stuff in football that has to happen in order for it to work.
I mean, if you're talking about difficulty, sure, but that doesn't change the GOAT. To me, that's not the reason.
Yeah, it's irrespective of the GOAT
that doesn't matter
conversation.
So
Lakers only sign players for entertainment.
So this is mine. So I will say that, again, people need to get off the rocking chair of thinking that the Lakers only exist for people's entertainment. Like, we exist because we have 18 championships, bruh. So just like the Celtics. And so therefore, the idea that we're only signing players, it's always a footnote. Just for either team, it's a footnote. So until one of our teams wins one more, and at least in this era, the Lakers have been on that train.
The arms race is on.
The arms race is on, and the Lakers have been on that train. And so, just as much as your banner for the Celtics this year was let's win number 18. 19, or I'm 18. Sorry, 18, because both have 17 championships. Is the Lakers want to do that just as much. Now,
right?
My thing is, the players that they sign, they all are supposed to have a role. Now, they can have bad management, and people can go against, Rob Pelinka for the decisions that he's made. But that's not like, they never went into this. They never go into a year to say, let's just do this for entertainment. Like, that's not, as far as adding players, you know what I mean? So to me, that's not the goal of a team. And you should never say that the goal of the team is to provide entertainment to the rest of the league. Like, that's out of bounds for me.
Okay, so I will say that the Lakers. So I will say that the statement that the Lakers only sign players for entertainment is fundamentally wrong and flawed. But I do think that the Lakers sign players who are good and entertaining more, and they look for outsized personalities for sure, because it is LA. And I think that they're very adept at knowing their market. They're very adept at knowing that they're LA, and that there is a stigma attached to being in LA. And there's a reason why they were called the Showtime Lakers at the time. Lakers are in Jerry Buss was very intentional about his desire for players that had big personalities. I think that carries over to the family. I think that matters to them more than it matters to other organizations, because they are LA and because they had that Showtime thing. And I think that there is an element of that when they signed LeBron, that they wanted him to bring his entertainment value to the team. Now, he was also one of the best players in the world, and they had the ability to do that, and they're willing to go into the cap space. But so is it the major decision or the only decision? No, I think that's foolish.
Is it a factor? Absolutely.
Do they weigh entertainment value outsized more than other teams? Yes, I do. I think
sure. But they view it as an asset. Like, other teams don't view the Showtime or the entertainment as an asset as much as the Lakers do. And my point is that the Lakers specifically want to win championships with Showtime. They want to win with entertainment.
They want both.
They're one of the few. They're one of the to me, one of the vanguards and one of the leaders in saying that this is the kind of product that we can put on the floor. So absolutely, I'm all hands in, all hands on deck for that. But to poo-poo, any of the trades that we're doing because we're saying, oh, it's just for entertainment value. No, LeBron was signed to get championships, not just for entertainment. I understand that he set up his own movie studio and everything else, but that was not the reason he was signed up. Like, he was signed up because he was supposed to bring a championship to LA. So
right. But they do have an outsized appetite for that, more so than other NBA teams. I do buy that. And one of the staunch differences between the Lakers and the Celtics historically has been that the Lakers were about showtime and the Celtics were about the lunch bucket, hard hat, kind of the grimy way to win, and the East Coast grinders. It was like the East Coast grinders versus the LA showmen kind of deal. That's kind of the reputation they had.
Yeah, and again, those are stereotypes. It is what it is. So, double standard of player.
Jason Tatum is not a grinder like that's those old school.
Like, come on,
teams.
Yeah,
he's definitely a Showtime Laker. We could probably swap a few LA and Celtics players.
I think Jason Tatum would love to be on the Lakers.
Not this year. But yeah. Some year, yeah.
No, like in general. I wouldn't be surprised if they were one of his favorite teams growing up.
Players like playing for the Celtics and the Lakers for the reason that they are both the gold standard organizations in the entire league. Okay, Geoff, this is yours.
So I do think that there is a double standard in player movement, in that the criticism that players move for making free agent decisions are criticized way more heavily than decisions by teams to trade players. And I think that the crux of all of this has led to a tipping point as far as players requesting trades before their contract is up. Right? So,
what? Bro, what are you talking about, man?
So what I'm saying is that the criticism is uneven between players and organizations.
Yeah, so it comes down to the whole proletariat versus the bourgeoisie conversation, right? If you believe that the players that are involved in the
please help our listeners to understand that.
Yeah, this whole thing,
What? Bro, what are you talking about, man?
I mean, you just dropping words in there, man.
The workers versus management. That's what it comes down to. If you believe in this case that the workers should have they have primacy, that they should have the say, and it's completely on what happens to them. They have autonomy, independent from the company, and they need to be able to exercise that autonomy in the workplace on some level. Then I can see a strong argument for wanting the players to control their movements. On the opposite side, I think that there's the other argument, which is that if you think that when entering into a contract for millions of dollars to do anything, in particular play a sport, do you give up some of that freedom of movement for control of how your career plays out, knowing that you're kind of entering into this environment? There's that argument as well, because there are also brand standards, right? Like we literally just talked about the Celtics versus the Lakers. These are two organizations that have very high standards for the players and for how the organization functions. So, should they have a say in
absolutely?
Should they have a say in players' movement?
We need balance. That's all I'm saying.
So what is the balance though? How does it work?
I think it's a joint. I think we should be able to criticize both to the utmost level. So we should be able to criticize the organization and the player, and the players and the organization shouldn't complain when we make those criticisms, i.e. the media.
Right. And I think that giving a player option, I think that the NFL has slowly moved towards that a little bit. I think that the NBA has rushed towards that, and in their rush, they've lost control in some respects of their ability to slowly get there with the players. And which the result of that is what you have right now, which is that these players have outsized personalities. They walk around like they're gods, like they can't be controlled. And I'm not exactly sure that that's good enough for the game. I don't think that talent alone is good enough for the game. Competitive play is the best way to keep a professional sports league high. Like that's that is the standard.
All makes sense.
But
we run out of time, and Geoff has to go. So it's been great, y'all.
Geoff gotta go.
Eyesight Sports Talk has got.
I've had enough. He's had enough. Why have you had enough?
No, God! No, God, please, no! No!